if you want to overbuild something, they're the people.
We about to.
Hello and welcome to the AV Forums podcast, streaming live on Sunday the 9th of August. And joining me in this edition, Steve Withers.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Ed Selley.
Where is my beige iridescent lipstick?
And Kaz Harlow.
I'm eating jujubes to stay alive.
Good evening. If you're joining us live, thank you very much. Welcome along. It's good to see you all on the chat window. You can ask your questions in there this evening, and we will answer them towards the end of the show this evening. Also, if you are listening at any time during the week to the audio version, welcome along as well. We do appreciate you listening in, and please keep downloading the podcast from iTunes, Spotify, and any other podcast provider. Thanks again for listening. If you do have questions and you listen during the week, you can, of course, send them to podcast@avforums.com, and we will ask or answer your questions. No, we have to ask and then answer your questions on the podcast. We won't be doing it for the next 2 weeks because we're off on our holidays. So we're not around for the next 2 weeks. This evening we brought our games in. That's normally what you do, isn't it? Before you go on holiday, you bring your games and toys in, and
your Ouija board.
Just have a So, yes, we're not around for the next 2 weeks. We're having a holiday, basically. I don't think anybody's going anywhere. We're just not doing the podcast. Like I say, we will be having your questions later on. You can also subscribe. You can do that on the YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the bell to be notified each time we do a video. And lots of review videos will be coming up while the podcast is away. So those are all lined up and will be coming up over the next few weeks. And of course, if you appreciate the forums, our editorial and videos, then you could make a donation. You can do that via Patreon, which is patreon.com/AVforums. And you can automatically support us for £3 per month when you do that. Or if you just want to make one donation or one-off donation and ask a question, and it's a good way of getting the question answered, you can do that via streamlabs.com/AVforums. And like I say, perfect way to do the questions. We've had some donations since we went live last time. So Straps, he's donated £3. Thank you very much, Straps. Straps' message was, thanks for all your help for me to pick a TV and speakers. Shout out to Phil Hinton especially. Well, thank you very much, Straps. That is appreciated.
You would say that.
Yes. He was paid to say that.
Don't like this favoritism. What's going on here?
Can I just say, so AAA, as I said, is this truly live or recorded? I assure you,
it's recorded.
There is.
If it was recorded, it would be a lot slicker.
No, come on. I don't know. It depends who edits it, really. And we have some new patrons. So, Carl and Big Fingers, thank you very much for becoming patrons. It is appreciated. If you want to become a patron, you get early access to things like Tom's Thumbs. Then you can join us for £3 a month. That's something that you could do. And like I say, when we have content to give you early, you'll get to see it early. If you do feel inclined to support us, then what you are doing is you're contributing towards AV Forums, improving the site speed and features, helping us produce more editorial content, like the new Tom Thumbs videos. The second one went up this week. There's also other content like news and reviews, and obviously we'll try and at some point make some good podcasts. So thank you very much for your support. Current competitions, so your chance to win stuff. Kaz.
Yep, you can win a copy of The Woman in Black on Blu-ray. That closes 2nd of September.
That's not the Daniel Radcliffe version.
No,
this is the one that's classic in hiding, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I've never seen it, but it would appear that a lot of people have lots of fun memories about this one.
Yep, it's right here. You can win it. Yes, it's in my hands. Yep, win a copy of Criterion's August titles on Blu-ray. Lady Eve, Marriage Story, Taste of Cherry. That closes 8th of September. Win a copy of Gangs of London Season 1 on Blu-ray. That closes 18th of August. Win a copy of Story of a Love Affair on Blu-ray. Closes 11th of August. And A Rainy Day in New York on Blu-ray. It closes 18th of August. We're also doing the podcast competition at the end, so stay tuned for that. And all competitions are open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK.
Okay. Any previous competition winners, Kaz?
Yeah, we got a whole host. Les Evans won a copy of the Rhythm Section on Blu-ray. Jim 1106 won a copy of Vagrant Queen Season 1 on Blu-ray. Ian Fretwell won a copy of Fantasy Island on Blu-ray. St. Letis won the podcast exclusive prize of Dr. Sleep on Blu-ray, and Ghost Rider 17 won a copy of July's Criterion titles on Blu-ray. That's The Cameraman, Female Trouble, and 3 Outlaw Samurai.
Okay, well done to all our winners there. And of course, lots of competitions for you to go and enter. avforums.com/competitions. Right. What have we been up to this week? Ed?
Just before we kick off, people saying about lip sync. Yes, we're aware of that. We've got a choice. We've got a choice of the software that we're using at the moment, where there are lip sync issues.
For those who are watching.
For those of you watching, it's all fine on the recorded podcast. There's another piece of software that we've been ticking about and the lip sync is probably perfect, but doesn't work. So, I mean, aside from that minor technical issue, we've gone with the one that has lip sync issues, but you can see us. So, we'll keep. You know, we've got 2 weeks off, so we'll do nothing for 13 of those days and have a look towards
10
the end
minutes
of it.
before the next
podcast.
We'll give it a go.
It'll be fine.
Hey, we're ambitious but crap. What can we say?
Just think, it's just like
we
watching
always
an
like
old
to
70s
under-promise and over-deliver, don't we?
Yeah, I'd love it if
Mostly
we
we-
did it in the style of Police Academy, that trainer in Police Academy. Should do the whole thing when he did the martial arts.
Oh, what the that's a lifetime of training, and I'm sorry, I'm too old and too lazy for that. So
You don't have to actually do the martial arts. You just have to
do mad voice tricks. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you first. You show us how it's done, Kat.
Well, apparently I can, because they're telling me I'm way out of sync at the moment. All I'd have to do is just change my voice.
A minor detail.
Apologies for the sync if you're watching on the video, but like I say, on the audio only, you should be okay because you can't see your lips. So there you go. Right, Ed, what have you been up to this week?
I have been sweating. That's been high on my list of activities this week. It's not a suitable weather set for a person built like me. I've been doing some work for you. I've been doing some work for other people. I went down to Hampshire yesterday, which was very pleasant. Had a quick walk around Danebury Hill Fort, which there was a bit of a breeze at that altitude. Very, very nice. It's been otherwise it's just business as usual, just doing everything, and the moment that you unbox something you develop a heavy sweat, or put something back in a box you develop a heavy sweat. It's just thoroughly unpleasant.
That's why I have boxes behind me at the minute, Ed. I plan to do it later on this evening once it cools down. I've got a TV.
It's down here it's not looking like it's likely to drop much, if anything, below 20 degrees overnight. So yeah, well, I mean, obviously you're in the Arctic Circle, so it might do better for you, but you know, it's not pleasant here.
Well, I've got the Krypton factor. It's because Panasonic, for some reason, they do long boxes instead of normal size TV boxes, and they're easy enough to get out. It's remembering how it goes back in, and there's about 15 million pieces of polystyrene that you've got to get in the right way as well. Otherwise, the whole box doesn't close up. So I have that pleasure this evening.
What I always find amazing is that sometimes you take the TV out of the box and then you can't get the polystyrene back in the box without the TV in it. Somehow you think there's less, the TV's not there, there's more space. No, it's so precisioned that without the TV in there, they don't all align and slot together any longer. So, lots of fun and games of those bloody things.
Yeah, so I've got that to look forward to, and a 7 a.m. pickup in the morning.
That's just uncivilized. So that's that. But if you will do televisions, that's
Who's around your neck of the woods at 7 a.m.
Well, they're having to come all the way up from Northampton, so I'm the first stop of the day, seemingly at 7 a.m. So they're picking up this HZ-2000 and dropping me a HZ-1000. So, but they're doing it at 7 a.m.
Lovely.
Thank you, Panasonic.
In a more, I suppose, loosely related to what we're all doing, what we're here for thing, after weeks of there being no hi-fi news, it's like buses. They've all done it at once. So in this week alone, since we last convened, we've got new Marantz limited edition 12 series equipment, new McIntosh preamp and power amp, and then a heavily revised Linn DSM streaming system. They've just it just all dropped in a flurry of action. So all the news stories for that are diligently up on the website, and they're written by Andy, so they're in English. Andy, as well as doing all of these news stories and the like, he deals with the material once I and presumably Steve have uploaded it to the CMS. He sent me a lovely email in the week going, "Could you run through a couple of sentences?" And it was clear just reading them back that I turned my brain off and then 20 minutes later written this paragraph of material. And I had to say to him, "No, I'll you leave that to one side, and I'll do my best to turn that into English because not my finest work." So anyway, I don't want to talk about all of these things because there's good news stories. The one that does look the most fun is the McIntosh valve preamp power. I mean, there are many things I would rather do than turn them on a day like this. I'm not going to lie, but McIntosh do valves quite nicely, and all valve pre with onboard phono stage, inputs for days, the McIntosh styling, which you'll either love or loathe, but it is what it is. They're not going to be changing that anytime soon. And the matching power amplifier, which is 150 watts from valves. So there's some serious iron in that. I suspect that the box is the sort of thing where the courier will deliver it to your house and the hatred in their eyes will be palpable. They will be staring lasers at you. So yes, that's the coolest one of the lot.
I love the way the news story has McIntosh kicks off with his 8th decade. Yes, and they look exactly the same as they did 80 years ago.
Well, this is the thing. If it ain't, as far as they're concerned, it ain't broke. The other thing is, it does mean that the residuals on old Macintosh stuff is pretty good because it looks exactly the same as new Macintosh stuff, and you tend to want to keep it in the family as well. You tend to stay.
It's so expensive that it's not the type of kit that you just swap over all the time. You buy a piece of Macintosh and it lasts you the rest of your life basically because it ain't cheap, any of it, but it's beautifully made and stunning to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all good, and obviously they're celebrating they've also there's been a change behind the scenes. So Sonus Faber loudspeakers are now distributed by the same organization that distributes Macintosh. So expect to see more doubling up of those components in the UK from specific locations, certainly at the higher price point of Sonus Faber stuff, because Sonus Faber start at the almost reasonable, and Macintosh doesn't. So it won't be a perfect partnership at all the price points, but at the higher price points, I suspect that you'll start seeing them in combination more often, and it should be probably rather pleasant. So all good there. Marantz, they have been tinkering around with their 12 series. It's not a clean sheet design. It all looks very smart, if you like that sort of thing. And the Linn DSM, that's different insofar as it looks quite similar to the last one, but they've changed everything. As best as I can work out, the only thing that it has in common is it's still called a DSM. So that's their all-in-one streaming system. We've never actually looked at one of the Linn DSMs for review. So I'll see if they're prepared to tolerate the fact that I wasn't on the virtual press conference because I have my son here and he wasn't interested, and see if they're prepared to forgive that, and we'll see if we can sort some review samples out as well.
All right, okay, good stuff, Ed. Steve, what have you been up to?
I'll be honest, not a lot actually. Bit of work, bit of gardening, clean the car, took advantage of the weather, watch some films. Was slightly distressed to initially very happy, and then later on quite distressed because earlier in the week. Now I'm going to crib off of Bill Hunt here. So if you haven't heard of Bill Hunt, he runs a site called The Digital Bits, which is excellent. He's been doing the Lord's work since the days of DVD. He led the rebellion against DIVX, for those of you who remember what that is, and yeah, he's a really valuable source of information about discs, and he's been doing it for over 20 years, and he's a great guy. And he's been doing some digging this week, and he came back earlier in the week. He had some great numbers actually in terms of profits for the studios and in terms of their digital, digital and physical media
It was the home entertainment
returns.
branches of the
Yeah,
studios,
yes,
wasn't it?
and they were, but with one exception, which we'll come back to in a second, they were all way up this year. Obviously, people, been buying stuff online, buying more discs, stuck at home, and it's been really good for them. And they've sensibly, some of the studios have sensibly been thinking, right, we should fill our boots here. We've got no new product coming out. Let's get all our catalogue titles out. And so the news that quite might be good, and it's still not confirmed, might be good, is that Lord of the Rings, which was originally planned to come out in 2021 to time with the 20th anniversary, obviously Warners are quite keen to get it out this year when they've got no content. So it might come early, although apparently it will take time. They're still working on it, and they'll do it as fast as they can. But it might be that it comes out early next year, but possibly later this year. But certainly it's good news that most of the studios have realised, let's start mining our back catalogue in these difficult times, because if you haven't got any new films coming out, you've still got plenty of old films that haven't been released on disc. So that was good news. I thought, wow, excellent. There's some stuff in the pipeline I'm quite keen on. And then Bill mentioned that Disney, at this point at least, has pretty much stopped doing any physical releases. They want to concentrate on pushing Disney Plus. So I think that's short-sighted of them. That might not apply, obviously, to new releases or certain big titles.
I think it was just the back catalogue stuff at the minute.
Yeah. And now, to a certain extent, if it's Disney back catalogue, I ain't that bothered. But Disney owned Fox, and Fox has got a stonking back catalogue. The Die Hard films, the Alien movies. I mean, you could go on and on and on in terms of 20th Century Fox's back catalogue, and a lot of it is still untapped. And Fox are one of the big studios in the early days of 4K disc that were really pushing it. So that's a worry.
Isn't it? I mean, for as long as Disney Plus is notionally still aimed at it's still fundamentally child targeted.
It's the kids, yeah.
I can't see how they can legitimately say that they're going to not give you your 4K Die Hard because they're going to just randomly release it in, I don't know.
Well, they're going to concentrate, I think, when I say, they're not going to release them physically, so discs, but obviously they'll be available for download and purchasing online, which I've got no interest in doing. But that's what they want to do. I think they're being short-sighted. I think, why don't you just do both? I mean, you still make money on the discs. Charge more for them if you have to. I'll still pay for the money. I mean, I used to buy Laserdiscs at 100 quid a pop. So at this point, I don't care about the price. Just give me the content. Obviously, don't tell them that.
Says man announcing now.
I think they already heard you when they priced up Mulan.
Well, I was going to hand over to you on this one, Kaz, because it was your story. But so Disney, less interested in physical discs, but quite keen on doing other things, aren't they, Kaz?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't come as a surprise, should it? Because everything going on with the US and China, and Disney not making. I mean, they made a $4 billion loss.
I think it was near $5 billion.
Yeah, they need to make some money, so they're going to release Mulan in a couple of weeks. I think it's early September. In all territories where there's been Disney Plus, they're going to release it straight to streaming, and anywhere they don't have Disney Plus, they're going to release it to cinemas as well. It's an interesting gamble for $30. I don't know what the UK prices are.
£30.
30 quid.
Have they done it as 30 quid? Okay.
No, but that's normally how it works.
Yeah, I know it is, but I think people are still hoping it's like 25 or 20. But anyway, for $30, you can rent it. But what's interesting is it isn't the usual premium rental where you get it for 48 hours. You can actually rent it for the length of your subscription. So for some people, that'll be basically until it comes free to Disney Plus. For other people, it'll just be for the 7 days that they got a subscription so they could watch it.
That's not too bad if they do that. I mean, obviously, if as you've signed up for the year and you purchase something and it's there until your subscription is renewed or you kill your subscription.
Yeah,
that seems pretty decent value to me.
I don't think the price is actually that bad, considering how much it actually costs to take a family to see.
Yeah, if there were 4 of you going to the movies, that'd be 50 quid.
Yeah, it isn't that bad. It's a bit more worrying, and I can see the economics of it as well. There are a couple of polls up. I think we ran our own poll, and it looks like basically about 10% of people would be prepared to pay $30. I think it's probably going to be more than that, but let's go with 10% of people. And with a subscriber network, was it up to
60 million subscribers?
60 million.
6 million people pay $30. Yeah, that's not a bad return.
It's your 180 million, which is just shy of what it costs to make. So I think that it's still a conservative 10%, and more people will go for it than that. So I think I can see why they're going to attempt this. The worrying thing is what it leads to, because we got Black Widow. Will Black Widow come out? Will Black Widow go straight to Disney streaming for $30? A lot more than 10% of people will buy it. You know, you could, if let's say 50% of people decided to get Black Widow, that could be an absolute.
You say a lot more than 10% will buy it, but I think you're assuming anyone's that interested in Black Widow. I think, you know, Marvel peaked last year with Endgame, and it's been so long now. And there's been no new content. I think most people have forgotten and moved on to other things. I don't think anyone's that bothered. I don't know. We're sitting there waiting for Black Widow to come out, which is a prequel anyway.
Yeah, I know, but I still think it's like people not saying they're not going to see Avatar 2. They kind of are. Even after all this time, they probably will. So I think people will still go for Black Widow. I know, I agree with you. Marvel has lost momentum, but I think because it's a prequel as well, or because it's whatever it is, people might give it a shot. It's just worrying that this is the way it could go.
Well, I mean, that's one way of looking at it, Kaz. But then, you know, the flip of the coin is that certainly myself and Steve have been talking about this for a long time. Wouldn't it be great to have a day and date release on that you could watch at home in your own home cinema, and you pay 25 quid for the movie? We've been saying that for a while. I mean, that type of thing has been to a certain market sector that's tiny, but you know, the mega rich have been able to do this and have it in their own home theaters. You know, instead of going to cinemas, they've been able, and it's cost, you know, hundreds of dollars to rent the film or whatever. But this is something that we've been calling for a while. Wouldn't it be great that we don't have to go to the cinema? We can sit in our home cinema, Steve, and watch the film.
I think it depends. If you're lucky enough, like we are, to have a decent home cinema, then in reality, watching it at home is as good as, and quite often better, than going to the cinema. So for me or you, Phil, it's less of an issue. You know, you're thinking, right, 20 quid, 25 quid. Yeah, well, I'd have spent probably close to that going to the flicks anyway. I haven't got to bother driving into town. I haven't got to find somewhere to park. I haven't got to leave the house. I can sit in the comfort. I haven't got to risk COVID. So I can sit here, watch it on a really, you know, a big screen with good sound. Fantastic. If you don't have that, you know, if you're not lucky enough to have that, and you're just watching it on a smaller size TV, say a 43-inch TV, you might be less inclined, and you will miss out on the big screen experience. So I suppose it depends on what you're looking for from a movie. If you just want to see the film, and let's be honest, there's a whole generation coming through now who watch it on a phone. So they don't care. They don't care.
Absolutely.
And that's really, you know, we'll be dead in a few years. we're not the future of cinema.
Speak for yourself.
So, but yeah, you know, but I mean, relatively speaking, we're on the way out.
Yeah.
The new generation coming in don't care about home cinema. They don't care about big screens. They don't watch it on a phone or on a tablet. And so, for their perspective, it comes down to cost, I suspect, as much as anything. But
quality as well, I think, because obviously quality.
Oh, quality, yeah.
Because Richard Sims 7, he's obviously said, you know, you want higher quality. You don't want 15 megabits per second stretched out for 4K and HDR and all the rest of it. Which, to be fair, Richard, I'm prepared to put up with that and watch that, because that's what we're restricted to. And if it's just a film I want to catch up on, it's, you know, it's not a big blockbuster or whatever.
Just how much we hate going outside.
I'm quite happy to sit and watch that quality, even on the projector. You know, I sit far enough back and so on, and I'm only watching it the one time. I can put up with that. But I think if you are spending that type of money, then yeah, I'd still expect some extras, like Disney Plus do the extras and stuff at the minute. I'd still expect all that content and a commentary track and whatever. Even if I don't listen to it or watch any of those, I'd still expect some of that to be there for that value for money. But then if it's lasting the length of your subscription and you intend to keep your subscription, then
I did miss that wrinkle, because I mean, from my perspective, I live on my own. I mean, my son's got the attention span of a housefly, so he's not going to have any interest in it. So 30 quid under the premium release sort of mechanisms that some of this other stuff's been coming out at, just no, absolutely not. But whilst I'm still not going to swim rivers and climb mountains for Mulan, it's not to say that they could. If, for example, this had been transferred by a year, would I have paid that to do Ford versus Ferrari? Yeah, probably. So
Yeah.
so yes, that's we all have our price. We all have our pivot point. So
I suppose
we'll see where it goes.
the worry is, though, that this all sounds great to us. I mean, on that side, but what happens when the choice is taken away? Because it's all good and well us going, well, we'd love to watch these films from home. I agree with you. I'd prefer to watch Mulan from home. But my daughter's begging me to take her back to the cinema to see something. And what if there wasn't a cinema, or a cinema as we know it, to go and see these
We've got to
films at?
concentrate on saving the things you want to save. I mean, I'm working hard to keep pubs alive. You've got to decide.
Yeah, well,
if
you're
cinemas are...
fighting a losing battle there, Ed.
Well, no, I look. I'm well aware that it's going to be bloody grim, but it's going to be bloody grim for everything.
I mean, the pubs might only be open on school holidays going forward. So,
well, I mean, I need something to do with my son, so.
But anyway, getting back to the point, I think none of us here on this podcast are saying we're happy in any way that physical media might suffer and might not be there for us. I think we're all scared that that's going to be it's going to disappear, and I don't think it will. And like cinema, I think cinema will survive. What will happen is the fittest of the fit will survive. Those fit enough, those that have got if it's cinema chains, those that have got enough capital behind them to keep going at the moment and keep things turning over. Same with studios and so on. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see things fall away. You're going to see companies disappear or get eaten up. I mean, that could happen to Disney, believe it or not. They've lost $5 billion. The sharks are circling at the minute. So that could all happen. So nobody really knows where it's going to go. I don't think cinemas will disappear. I think the way people go at the cinema is going to change just because of what has happened with COVID and all the rest of it. I think people have gotten into new habits or will form new habits and so on, and tastes will change, and how people spend their time is going to change. And we really don't know where it's going to go. I think there is hope with physical media, even if the big studios are not that interested like Disney. There's always the licensing route, and as long as we've got boutique labels around that are willing to put the time and effort into things, then I think that could be a way forward. So if Disney are not interested in their back catalogue or the Fox back catalogue or whatever, you could see another label coming in and doing a licensing deal and releasing content that way.
I give it to Arrow. I'd love it now. Arrow's in on the game with Pitch Black, or give it to Studio Canal.
Yeah,
yes, I think that'd be tremendous. I agree with you, Phil. If they give it to a boutiques label, which is coming up. I mean, Arrow's done its first 4K with Pitch Black. I mean, I hope they get the license to a bunch of Fox films and then do. Really
Arrow also doing Flash Gordon, aren't they, in the States? I think
they're doing Flash Gordon in the States, yeah. Whereas we get the Studio Canal Flash Gordon, which I mean, I don't know whether there's any difference. But
I assume it will be the same disc. It's just being repackaged for the US market. It's interesting though, like I think Ed's mentioned, Disney Plus obviously is a platform aimed at kids. It's easy to forget that Disney, through Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures, has made a load of really great, things like Con Air and The Rock and Armageddon. Those are Touchstone pictures. So a Disney picture technically, but not suitable for that platform. So either they're going to have to create some new...
can't wait for Con Air on Disney Plus.
Yeah, Con Air is great.
On any other day, that would look...
Maybe they'll give us Disney XXX.
I have to say, obviously, there was a standing joke when this Mulan pricing was announced on Twitter. People saying, "I haven't even paid that much for pornography." And
pay for pornography.
People do pay for pornography. But yeah, it's a lot of money. But no, if look, there's any ways of number of ways that Disney can get around this. I mean, if they are adamant that they're keeping Disney Plus, a child-friendly environment, then I dare say that there's a number of other streaming services that would pay them handsomely to get access to that catalogue if they wanted to do it that way around. It would be nice, as you say, if a boutique disc manufacturer got in on the action, or they might, confronted with lots of red numbers on the balance sheet, work out a way of. I mean, let's face it, it's not beyond the wit of man, is it? Anytime I turn Netflix on, it asks if it's me, my son watching it, and I'm sure that such incredibly sophisticated technology is also open to Disney if they wanted it. So, yeah,
I think what is significant is, I mean, we've been talking about it ever since COVID, hit. That up until now, they've been releasing films on streaming services. Largely, they've been either films that didn't cost that much or films that they didn't expect to make any money, like Artemis Fowl wasn't necessarily cheap, but no one thought it was going to be a hit to start with.
Yeah.
Mulan cost 180 million, and Mulan was expected to make $1 billion at the box office. Yeah. So the fact that's gone to Disney Plus
is a big statement.
Is the tipping point. And if it does succeed, I think we'll see Black Widow in pretty short order.
Yeah, I agree.
This is their test. If they make enough out of this to at least cover the production costs of the movie, and they obviously haven't got to split this with the cinemas, they haven't got to worry about there's no marketing costs. So there are, to a certain extent, they can make less on this because they got less, to give away to other people, in terms of cinemas and marketing. So if it works, then I reckon we'll see Black Widow before Christmas.
Phil Singh, interestingly, says watch the illegal downloads come out the next day once Mulan is released. That's happening anywhere. I mean, there's boxes out there that you could buy illegally and find most of the cinema releases on there. You could do that a year ago. So that's always going to be an issue, unfortunately.
It comes down to the effort involved, and it appears that there's a fixed number of people who will quite happily pirate anything, and they're quite proficient at it. And then after that, you reach a certain point of people that just don't fundamentally want to get that involved in it. And it appears to be weird. Well, okay, COVID's messing about with everything else, so I'm sure it's messing with this too, but it does seem to be curiously durable. I mean, I know the mechanics of finding stuff under these circumstances. I just can't be arsed. I mean, I don't know whether that's a reflection on me in general, but it would appear that I'm not alone in this being.
No, I mean, there's been a trade for a while in these boxes that are plug and play and all the rest of it, and sidelined. It's a big issue. I mean, there's been a lot of high profile cases, not this year, but last year there was a lot of high profile cases with a lot of these boxes. Unfortunately, they're being called Kodi boxes. Kodi was just the software that ran it. They had nothing to do with the illegal side of things. But it's been around for a while. Phil Singh says we're at a crossroads for the industry. Absolutely, we're at a crossroads for everything, really.
Yeah, many things. But,
a lot of things are going to change going forward. Unfortunately, we're going to see things disappear. But then, as always, you're going to see things become more and more popular as well. It's going to be interesting to see, from our point of view, anyway, in the little niche that we have in the market, how things are going to progress going forward.
I like Daniel's comments good. So if you want to see Black Widow soon, rent Mulan.
Cause meet effect. In terms of behavioural changes, I used a delivery robot for the first time. I forgot to say this week. Used a delivery robot. It was brilliant.
How does that work then?
You download the app. Yeah. You tell it what you need. You pay, and 20 minutes later, this 6-wheeled delivery robot turns up. You get a code.
Number 5 is alive.
Do you know what? They're
That's how Judgment Day started.
Yeah, I know what you're doing, man.
If you've watched one of these things trying to cross a road, I need to be clear that you shouldn't be too concerned just yet. I'm not going to lie. The other day, I actually helped one cross a road because I figured it probably had someone's takeaway in it or something like that, and I just felt sorry for them, not the robot. I did not. But no, I essentially I needed an item. My son was already in bed. I couldn't responsibly leave him to go and pick up the item, so it was delivered to me by robot. Was it a grossly expensive way of getting said item? Yes, it was, but it's something I wouldn't have even thought about prior to this stuff kicking off.
Is it just a guy who's too lazy to get out of his van and he unleashes the robot? Or
no. It travels from my local co-op down the pavement.
That must be so surreal to see that rolling past you. Must be short circuit style.
Can I give the name? I don't know. Does that count?
Yeah, why not? Because we're all fascinated now, Ed.
It's called Starship. and it's in a couple of places in the UK. Milton Keynes is well suited to it because we've got lots of room for people and robots, and it's quite flat.
Some would say there may be the same thing in Milton Keynes.
Well, maybe, but be that as it may, I live where people marry non-relatives, so I'm not going to have it.
What is there to stop somebody tampering with this, or
they weigh a lot more than you think, and if you attack it, it lets off a very loud siren noise, and it's locked.
I think they should arm them.
It turns up.
It looks like leftover stock from a Jerry Anderson TV show.
Well, they're deliberately designed to look inoffensive.
The Overlander is loose.
Oh, we need to see a photograph of this. So I hope Stuart's bashing away at the minute trying to find a
Starship delivery robots. You can find it straight away. They look amazing. Six-wheelers.
They just bimble around.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, and obviously they've expanded quite a bit during the because if you're on self-isolating, proper self-isolating, it's an absolute lifesaver.
I wonder whether I can put my son on one without it noticing. I wonder what the weight.
Before
the alarm goes
base,
off.
It's got a child. But no, I know people have.
Does it say nothing is going to stop me now as it goes around?
Oh no! If you encounter one that is stuck, and you put it right, it says thank you.
They're pretty big.
It's very polite.
Yeah, they're pretty big things.
Well, they're like those things they used to have in Jerry Anderson. Is it in Captain Scarlet? These.
Yeah. Is it Captain Scarlet or Terrorhawks?
I don't know.
Oh, you're right. You're actually. I might be.
Yeah, there we go. So it's in Milton.
Oh no, I know.
There it is, bimbling around on the.
What if it needs to cross the road?
Trust me, it needs help crossing. They can cross the road, but they need to wait for it to be clear about a mile in each direction. So I've helped one, as I say, comparatively recently because I felt sorry for whoever's food it had in it.
Well, they've got good suspension.
And is it locked, or can anybody just open the thing?
No, it's locked, and you have a code on the app when it gets to you to unlock it to get your stuff.
Looking at that bloke who's ordering on it, he needs to get out and do some exercise and stop using it. My opinion. I think I can see your problem, mate.
Wow.
But yeah, as I say, I used one for the first time this week. I was quite impressed with it. So it's not all doom and gloom. The cinemas are dead, but delivery robots. So.
And if they take over, we could always do what they did in The Matrix and blacken the sky, because that was an excellent idea, wasn't it?
Well, they're not solar powered for starters, but can we be clear about this? If you are threatened by what is essentially a big radio controlled car,
haven't you seen the Deadpool? Haven't you seen any movie where they try to use radio controlled cars? They're about as scary as people chasing people in cars on a bike.
Well, look, I
break.
Maybe this is said with the glib assurance that it doesn't look like it can write hi-fi reviews just yet, but nevertheless, I did not find it particularly threatening. What's more, because it's the same staff in my local co-op loading them and setting them on their way. So
So the only person that's lost their job is the delivery guy.
No, but there wasn't a delivery guy from co-op anyway.
Was there not?
No, not.
All right. Okay. Well, fair enough.
So. And they do takeaways as well and other things. And as I say, Milton Keynes is probably one of the happiest places for them because it's flat and there's lots of, and we've got these things called redways, which are for pedestrians, cyclists, and delivery robots, and it keeps them off roads. But no, I was quite chuffed with that. So yeah, there you go. And I've got the app on my phone, and it works well for Android as well, which is a nice touch.
Only costs $150 a delivery.
Look, I needed.
Need those beers badly, didn't you?
It wasn't beer. No, seriously, I needed sour cream. I then realised that the milk.
No, I've never in my life needed sour cream.
You don't make chili like I make. So there we go. A weird distraction. Just so we're not just talking endlessly about doom and gloom. So
well, we're going to move on to AV next, so we're going to get away from some of the doom and gloom, I think. So let's talk some AV. And Steve's been looking at what's this? A sound bar? It's not like you, Steve.
Who'd have thought it? Another sound bar. Yeah, I've got this very early. I don't think it's even going to be in the shops until September. And so the review won't be until the end of the month. But I'll give you a sort of a sneak peek at this. So it's the Samsung HW-Q950T, which is their new flagship soundbar, replacing last year's HW-Q90R. I don't know how much it costs because they haven't told me yet. However, if I had to hazard a guess, I would assume it's similar as last year and the year before, which was 1,500 quid, which would also put it in the same price bracket as the LG SN11 that I was talking about last week. This is it's not dissimilar from last year's soundbar. However, the design has been changed. It's slightly shallow, the height's been reduced, so it's a bit more sleek and slimmer. It's also got that Kvadrat fabric, which seems to be on absolutely everything these days.
They must be the busiest company on earth. They are fabric covering.
I've never seen a fabric catch on so much in my life. Everything comes through my house now has got some Kvadrat on it somewhere.
Just very quickly, just for the comments, the release date will be January the 1st, 1970, until such time as a confirmed release date is given to us and or any other publication. It's a TBC, but we've got our content management system defaults to January the 1st, 1970, because we all know that that's actually the day the universe began. So that's why it is. As soon as we've got a release date, we'll stick it in there.
Like I say, it's not due until I think September, so it's going to be a while, a few weeks at least. So it's got a nice sleek redesign, Kvadrat fabric over it. So before it was very plasticky, now it's a lot more what's the word I'm thinking of? Lifestyle friendly, I guess. Basically, it's black. It's got some basic controls on the soundbar itself, but they're black against black material, so they're actually quite difficult to see. For some reason that I will never work out why, they've moved the display, which was on the front of the soundbar, to the top of the soundbar, so you can't see it when you're sat down, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So that was one of my few complaints about this soundbar. I was like, you can't see this, you can't see the display, which doesn't make much difference most of the time. But when you're trying to set it up, it's nice to see the display so you can see what levels you're setting the various channels at. So don't know how much it's going to cost, but I think it'll be about 1,500 quid based upon previous years. It's a 9.1.4 channel system. So the main soundbar has got 3 forward firing channels, 2 upward firing channels, 2 side firing channels, and then 2 new channels that fire sort of diagonally away from the soundbar, bouncing off the walls to create side channels. So you've basically got front, width, side, and then it comes with 2 wireless rear channels. So you've got your surround channels, and they've got built-in upward firers as well. So that gives you your 0.4 front and rear heights. Plus, there's obviously a wireless subwoofer for the low end. And I've got to say, setting it all up, it sounds amazing. I was quite, I thought, is it going to really sound like a 9-channel system? But playing test tones, the test tones did sound like they were coming from sides, where the width speakers would be, and also, about 2/3 of the way down the room where you would have side speakers, and then obviously you've got the speakers at the rear that are actually physically there. But it did create that effect really well, and it sounded fantastic. I had a friend who came over while I was testing it, and he'd never heard a soundbar like this before. Obviously he'd heard Atmos in the home cinema, so he had a point of reference. I plonked him down and played some of the Dolby Atmos demo disc stuff, and he was gobsmacked. He said, "I can't believe you can get this kind of performance out of a soundbar." So I don't know, it's amazing what they can do. Obviously, there's certain caveats in terms of, you need a reflective ceiling for the overhead channels to work properly, and if you're going to, you need walls on either side really in order to get the sounds to bounce off for width and for the side channels. So, it's not going to work in every room, but certainly in my lounge, it worked really well, and I was well impressed with it. In terms of features, so obviously it supports Dolby Atmos and DTS:X. It's got EARC. It's got built into Amazon Alexa. It passes Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus. So, personally, looking for faults, there's very few. My main complaints would be put the display back at the front where it's supposed to be. They could expand the SmartThings apps, because you can control the soundbar with the SmartThings app, but you can't do the setup with the SmartThings app. So it'd be nice if the setup was included in the SmartThings app, because then you wouldn't need to see the display anyway, which would fix that problem. And it would be nice if they could include some sort of auto room calibration feature, as LG have included this year. So that would be a nice feature too. But other than that, I really can't fault it. I thought it was a stonking performer, sounded great, did a fantastic job with Atmos and DTS:X. It's got 2 HDMI inputs, which is not a lot, to be honest. But that's pretty much par for the course. It's the same on the LG. I I loved it. I thought it was a great soundbar. Very impressed.
Okay, but the review won't be up till we come back, which is the end of the month.
Yeah.
So if we haven't told you already, we're having a holiday. We're off for the next 2 weeks. Back on the I think it's the 30th of August. I think we're back. Is it?
In for the end.
Yeah, we're in for the end, in for the best of the month. So thanks for that, Steve. Just while we are about to transition into another subject, don't forget that you can become a patron at patreon.com/avforums. If you want to support us, you can do that for £3 per month. Head over there and sign up. Also, you can donate via streamlabs.com, AV Forums. I'll do that again, streamlabs.com/AVforums, which is obviously the perfect way to get your questions answered by the team here live on the podcast this evening. Of course, if you have questions and you don't listen and watch live, you can do that at any time and send your questions through to podcast@avforums.com, and we will ask them when we come back on the 30th. So yeah, keep those donations coming in. It is appreciated. And of course, you are supporting AV Forums, site speed, features, editorial, all that jazz. Right, so let's move on. So
I was just going to rounds, ROWNS. He asked SN11RG or Q950T, Steve. I'm not going to tell you. Read a review. I can't give it all away on the podcast. Well, you got to hold something back.
Yeah, what if you donate a £5? Would you tell them then?
Yeah. The £5 is not much I wouldn't do.
Your OnlyFans is going to be amazing.
There you had it here first. So there you go. Not a lot happening here for me other than TVs and obviously getting through stuff. But what I have been doing is obviously a lot of the TVs that have come through have Filmmaker Mode on them. And we discussed Filmmaker Mode at the beginning of the year at CES, and myself and Steve have discussed it a couple of times on the podcast recently. What I've got to say is I've been really impressed with just how accurate Filmmaker Mode is to the industry standards. Now, we mentioned accuracy and so on when it comes to OLED TVs and LCD TVs and so on. What we're talking about is the industry standards there for watching content back at home, which is the same envelope that's used when the camera captures content, which when it's getting worked on, when it's getting graded and so on. There's an envelope which is basically the standards, and if your display matches those standards, you should technically be able to see the content as it was created, as it was mastered, as it was graded and so on. The idea behind Filmmaker Mode, and it's complicated, it's just a one button press on the latest TVs that puts the TV into Filmmaker Mode, and it switches everything else off. Now, why is that a good thing? Because if it's got noise reduction, if it's got MPEG noise reduction, if it's got motion smoothing, I mean, these manufacturers are spending millions in R&D and all the rest of it developing these features, such as peak brightness enhancer and any other natural picture, whatever they want to call it, and so on. Why are these things bad? Well, basically, at the end of the day, a TV company, a TV manufacturer, they want to sell TVs. They're not going to sell TVs if you walk into the shop and every TV has the same picture. They want to look different. They want to stand out. They want to have features on their TVs that make them bright and colourful and all the rest of it. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, they are mistaken when they think that standard mode on their TV or natural mode on their TV is the way they should be watching a TV, because when they flick through the picture presets, those are the brightest and most colourful and so on. And it becomes frustrating because, we at AV Forums have always been of the, we want you to see it in the best possible quality. We want the equipment to be able to meet the standards, to be able to display films as they're supposed to be and so on. And there's so much misunderstanding. And another thing that I find really annoying personally is that I've read a few reviews elsewhere online from other publications of these TVs, and I'm hearing the same things or reading the same things in these reviews. Oh, it's an insipid, it looks dull and boring, and the colours aren't as colourful and all the rest of it. And, that sets alarm bells straight away, because if somebody's reviewing a TV, they should know all about image fidelity, image science, and so on. And if they are saying that about Filmmaker Mode, they don't understand what makes a good picture. They are falling into the trap of, it looks bright and colourful, and I'm going to turn the colour control up and make things even pop even more and all the rest of it. And it gets so frustrating, and it's like banging your head against a brick wall. So Filmmaker Mode, to get back to that, it's basically a one-button press that gives you a choice. If you want to see the film as intended, you can't afford the professional calibrator to come out and calibrate your TV, then this is the next best thing. And it's designed to be the next best thing because it switches everything off that doesn't need to be on. And it works, and it's been fantastic. I don't know if Steve's looked at any of the TVs this year with Filmmaker. You will have, because you've had an LG through, haven't you? The GX, G10. I mean, out of the box, unbelievably accurate. You know, it's gotten to the stage now where I think that side of things takes care of itself. Unfortunately, it's the misinformation now from basically, you know, diehard dyno reviewers in the UK, because it doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. TV reviewers, they all measure, then they understand image science, and they've done the, you know, the training and all the rest of it. They all understand it. Anywhere else in Europe, you know, the Netherlands, Germany, so on, they take it seriously and they all measure the TVs and so on. It just seems to be a thing in the UK. With some of these publications, that these people shouldn't have been reviewing TVs. They don't understand it. And that's really infuriating, because we've got excellent technology out there. Somebody mentioned judder. Yeah, film's judder. That's 24 frames per second. It's not obvious judder, though. You know when it's obvious judder, but films will judder because it's low frame rate, and it's supposed to look a certain way, and that is an intention. The other thing that keeps getting thrown at me by some of these people who are too lazy to learn how to review things properly and measure TVs and all the rest of it is that, well, it's upscaling it from HD, so it's already changing it.
Didn't I have a massive row with some bloke on one of the threads about this?
Yeah.
No,
resolution's got nothing to do with it. I mean, what we're talking about here is that, without getting deep into this, because we could go on for hours and I don't want to do that, but basically, and Kaz is maybe not as technical as myself and Steve when it comes to image quality, but Kaz will get this straight away. A filmmaker uses color, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, to make you, the viewer, feel a certain way.
Absolutely.
And the most obvious things of that is reds and yellows, warm colors to make you feel at ease, cold colors to make you feel intense. And if your TV is not displaying the colors as it's supposed to be seen, you're losing that. And the perfect example of that is something like The Matrix, where The Matrix is green, the real life is a bluey tone. If your TV is not doing that, you're losing completely the feel and so on. So again, it's one of these annoying things. We're always going to come back to it. We will always go along the lines of, we think Filmmaker Mode is a good and valuable thing. It's choice at the end of the day. And yes, we're not telling you that you should set your TVs up in a certain way and that you're wrong. You do what you want to do. But if you want to see it as it was mastered, as it was graded, and I've been in these facilities, and I've spoken to these engineers, as is Steve. Steve's visited some of these as well. You know, we've been to Technicolor. We've been to a lot of these studios where, you know, the master things. We've seen it. I mean, Dolby, some of the forum members last year were lucky enough to go along to Dolby and see a grading suite and how things are done. And these guys take it seriously. The filmmakers take it seriously. It's about telling a story. And if your TV is not capable of doing that, you're losing out. And if you're putting your TV in standard mode, you're losing out, unfortunately. Yes, it looks brighter when you're flicking through, but
it'll also be blue. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to come on to. It's, if you change the color of white, it changes the color. It changes all the other colors. Color of white is really important. It goes from white to black in steps of gray. As you take the brightness away, it gets grayer until it goes to black. That's what's called your grayscale. And that
is the canvas on which the rest of the image
is canvas for the image, right? Colors put on top of that. So if you haven't got the grayscale perfect, then everything else is off. It's like if you're a photographer, it's about setting your white balance. If you set your white balance to a certain point, then you know that when you go back to your monitor to work in Photoshop or whatever, as long as your white point's the same, then the colors look the way it should have looked when you. That's all the filmmakers are doing. They're working within this envelope of standards, and as long as your TV or projector or whatever meets that, then you should be seeing it. And Filmmaker Mode is a one-button press, and I think it's great. And I want to encourage people to give it a go. If you're flicking through and you think, well, cinema or ISF mode or filmmaker mode, it looks a bit dull, or I hate the word insipid. Whoever's reviewing for that publication that used that word, they shouldn't be touching TVs. They ain't got a clue about picture quality. So why are you touching a TV? If it's somebody subjective sitting in watching a subjective picture setting, what is the end user getting out of that? So anyway, I just wanted to make that point.
My advice would be give it a go, and then after a few days, look at the other settings, and you'll see that the standard or normal mode is blue.
I think that the trouble is that some people, when they get a new TV, if they don't have a clue about this, they might assume that 4K means super bright, vivid sports mode.
Yeah,
I've been to so many people's houses where it's just like that. I mean, it's like the days of old graphic equalizers.
Yeah,
it's like people love to tinker and they love to have things really super bright. And I completely agree with you. When you get it calibrated right, I mean, the amount of times Steve has calibrated my TVs, and when you get it right, I mean, it pops in the right way. Watching The Matrix, every color is the right color. Like the latest 4K Blu-ray on The Matrix, it's like their torches are green. It's not like the whole picture's green. And to get that right, you have to have the right settings on your TV. And the idea that someone would just flick a sports switch and just get everything super bright and then go, well, this 4K thing looks amazing, it's just depressing. But plenty of people do when they get a new expensive TV.
Daniel's used a good example. It's been used before, but would you go and look at the Mona Lisa with a pair of blue shades on?
That used to be my line. Here's some colouring cranes, go and colour in the Mona Lisa to your taste.
Yeah, or look at it with the filter over your eyes, because you presumably want to see the Mona Lisa as Leonardo intended you to see it.
So and again, coming back to
smudgy bulletproof glass.
How I started this right at the beginning is that if all the TVs looked the same, how would manufacturers sell the TVs? This is the problem, and this is why they have super bright modes and all the rest of it. And when you go to see, you go into a TV, I was going to say dealers, there's only Curry's really now and John Lewis on the high street. When you go into there, that's why things look bright and garish and all the rest of it, because it's to attract the eye and make you think that you're getting something. And, marketing departments would be lost if they didn't have HDR plus. Do you know what HDR plus? Not HDR 10 plus, but HDR plus. And HDR
fake HDR modes.
Yeah, stuff like that. And I mean, I've just reviewed a Philips TV, and it's a fantastic TV. It's really accurate, 750 nits peak brightness, which is almost Panasonic levels of brightness, and they're not doing anything fancy with the panel. But for some reason, you have to go through and knock so many of these features off that are set to on, because that's Danny's way of doing things. Danny Tack at Philips, he wants to have an image looking a certain way and won't accept that the filmmaker mode is the right mode. Great, if people want to do this, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're seeing everything that you're supposed to see. And as soon as you put something in standard mode, I can guarantee you that you're clipping detail, you're clipping blacks, it looks too blue. And if your white is too blue, then all the other colors are wrong. And we did a demonstration. I'm going to wrap this up. We did a demonstration at Bristol where we did something like that, where it was skin tones, faces. And we asked the people, does this skin tone look good? Does that skin tone look good? What they weren't looking at was I think it was an orange and another fruit in the background that were the wrong colours.
Orange and lemon.
It was a lemon. That was right, orange and a lemon. And then what we'd say was, well, look at the background. Is the fruit the right color? Because you might think the skin tone looks good, but everything else is now wrong in your picture. So, and skin tone's what most people, if they're messing about with their TV, is what they look at. So, yes, frame adapt HDR on JVCs, Dolby Vision, HDR 10 plus to a certain degree, and filmmaker mode. They all try and present the film or the content as it should be seen. So, yeah. Don't write it off straight away. Don't write 24 frames per second off, because it ain't going anywhere, people. They've tried 48 frames per second. They've tried 60. It's died every time they've tried it. So
until Steve dies, anyway.
So yeah, I wanted to have that little rant because I did dip in and read a couple of things, and I watched a video by somebody on YouTube as well who had the completely wrong idea of what it was all about as well. And this is the problem. There's too much misinformation out there, and people are missing out at the end of the day. We're not saying this is right and this is wrong. It's just you're missing out if you don't. If you just skip past it, or you're not aware of it, or somebody's giving you the wrong information. So there you go. Right. And like I say, lots of TV reviews coming in. So the Hisense U8QF came in last week. It's here. Like I say, I've got a Panasonic HZ-1000 coming in tomorrow. And I've also got the C10, which is sitting right next to me on the floor here. It's going up on the TV stand tonight. I'm going to quickly go through that because I've already done the C10 review. So this is the 55-inch. Quick look at that before I move on to other things. So lots of TV still coming. And lots of audio that I haven't really looked at yet, which I really should be getting stuck in about. So that's what I've been up to. Kaz, what have you been up to?
I have been out to an Easter egg hunt.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Explain.
that's the benefit of COVID, I guess. I went. The kids love a local country park called Worthington Country Park. It is amazing there for children, and they ran their Easter egg hunt now. So rather surreally, on one of the hottest days of the year, we all went out looking for Easter eggs around this massive campus and sweating like pigs. But it's quite nice. They have a splash zone, so I got completely drenched in a bid to stay alive. But yeah, it was one of those weird experiences for me. I haven't been out a great deal. I've been to, supermarkets wearing a mask, everything like that. It's one of these weird experiences because it's a country park and it's all open, so almost nobody has got masks. It's strange to see that many people. No one's close together. Obviously, people remain relatively distant. It's still surreal. It's almost like things are normal. But you don't, you're always reminded that there's something that isn't. But yes, I went there. I went on an Easter egg hunt in August. That's what I've been up to. That and watching movies and reviewing and the usual stuff. I finished my Pitchback review. That'll be up shortly. I will praise Arrow for doing an absolutely superb release for that. The colours in that, talking about colours and getting colours right on the TV, the colours they use in that movie are very vivid and very distinctive, and it's just got a certain style for all the different environments they're in and all the different suns they have. It's like 3 suns on one planet. I thought it looked absolutely tremendous. So I had the pleasure of looking through that, and more recently I got Bill and Ted's, and as a shock to everybody out there, it is the first time I've ever watched it. So I have never seen Bill and Ted's before, and I haven't written the review yet, but I'm gonna say I don't think I loved it, which is perhaps a little bit controversial. Maybe I had to be.
This is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, yeah?
It is, yeah. Maybe I had to be a young teen when it first came out and watch it then.
Very much of its time. And
a
lot of the phraseology and words that they used and so on were very big at the time. That was basically that was the way teenagers spoke back then.
Well, in California, anyway.
Well, in California,
I've got my 4-year-old son saying "dude" a lot now, which is, I guess, one side effect from it. But I don't know whether I quite see it as an all-time classic. Is the second one any good?
It's fun. It's more tonally inconsistent. I'm going to say that.
Also helps if you're familiar with Ingmar Bergman, bizarrely.
Which Kaz, you'll probably watch.
Seventh Seal.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I might.
It is the credit point for "You Sunk My Battleship," which is.
It's got its moments. I'm looking forward to watching Bill and Ted Face the Music on VOD when at the beginning of September.
Yes, I was quite looking forward to that, but I hadn't seen any of the others, so I was quite lucky to check this out. But I wasn't completely wowed by it. I do like Napoleon though. I think he was a little bit like Mr. Bean. Napoleon running around the 80s California, was slightly comedic. It was like having Mr. Bean in a bowling alley or at a water park, just being a bit goofy. But
why not?
Exactly, and the kids loved it.
Good.
That's me.
I was confused that a lot of the jokes in Bill and Ted with the jokes in Wayne's World because they kind of had similar
Yes.
Language, I suppose, like things like, I can't remember if it's Bill and Ted or Wayne's World where they go, no way, yes way. Is that Bill and Ted or is that Wayne's World?
Bill and Ted is no way, yes way. I mean, Wayne's World has aged better because it just has moments that are, because it's subverting the form, and there's a strong sort of absurdist element to it that's done better. I mean, I still, when he opens the door and there's the room full of ninjas training, it's like, what are you going to do with them? Nothing, but I've always wanted to walk into a room full of heavily armed men training. I just love that to this day. Just absolutely joyous. But you know, I too will probably watch the other Bill and Ted film because reasons, you know, seems fair enough.
Nostalgia is a wonderful thing.
It is. It's a powerful drug.
Yeah. It must be good nostalgia for a time period, even though I haven't seen the previous two films. But yeah, that's me.
Good. So we do some Q&A then.
Before we do, just can I don't think anyone's mentioned it in the comments. I apologise that I'm periodically glitching in my webcam. For whatever reason, my laptop is currently engaged on some sort of incredibly important mission of its own diagnostics, which is never done at this time of the day before, so I didn't have the presence of mind to turn it off, but it's currently running at the sort of temperature which you could melt lead, so it's unhappy, and I'm periodically juddering in and out of reality, for which I apologize. So I'm aware of it. There's nothing I can do about it. Sorry.
Right, okay. I've noticed a couple of comments about new projectors, either JVC or Sony 4K and so on. Obviously, if IFA is or isn't happening, people have their own launch events and so on. There is news coming. It's going to be the week after the podcast comes back. So we come back on the 30th, and the press stuff begins on the 31st through to, I think, the 4th of September. There's lots of different press events and so on. So yes, we're expecting some news. I can't tell you anything. I haven't signed any NDAs yet. But even so, I don't know anything, so I can't tell you.
I do know that there's a firmware update coming for JVC.
So there you go.
I don't know what it involves.
We don't know what it is, but yeah.
Tweak. So, because someone mentioned here, they posted a teaser video for a frame adapt HDR update on their YouTube 4 days ago. So that might be what that is then, an update for that feature. I don't think they've got any new models coming out, or at least if they have, they said a word to me about it.
No, I haven't.
I'd be surprised under the current circumstances, and given that the models they've already got are selling like, you know, particularly the N7. I mean, they're difficult to get hold of because there's a backlog of orders. So I can't see them releasing a new model, but a firmware update would be wonderful news, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Licensed Taximan said a friend of his asked him to adjust his picture because it was too colourful. When he did, he then said there wasn't enough colour and he put it back as it was. Yeah, it's one of these things, like I've said before, people flick through the image settings and they pick the one that's most colourful and so on, and they get used to that. And then when you try and show them 5 minutes of what it should look like, it's going to look dull, because it is a lot duller than these super bright and super in your face picture presets. The best advice Steve gave it earlier on, I'll repeat it, is try and sit somebody down for a couple of days looking at how it should look, and basically getting the eyes trained to that look. And then you suddenly realize how much detail you're actually seeing again, especially in faces. There's so much detail in people's faces when it should look right, but when you go into even standard mode, you know, you lose people's foreheads, you lose the lines from their foreheads and so on. You know, things like that. So try it. Sit them down and just say, look, stick with it for a few days. If at the end of those few days you don't like it, then go back to what you do like. But at least give it a go, because you are missing out on things. So yeah, thanks for that, Licensed Taximan. Steve?
Well, Othman 007 says C9 Whitehall now no Disney Plus app. The Disney Plus app's been on the 9 series, 8 series, 10 series, and 7 series since it launched in March. So, it's there. It's been there since March.
Yeah, you do have to go looking for it though. It's not suddenly just going to appear.
No, you've got to go into the App Store, I think. Yeah. Actually, that's not true. When it first launched, there were notices on the TV saying, you know, add it if you like. Maybe you missed that at the time, but if you go in the App Store, it's in there.
Right. While I've got everybody's attention, if anybody on the live chat or that's listening to the audio version has Sky Q and Disney Plus and Sky Q, are you getting HDR? Because I've updated my box to firmware 12, which it should be. I've powered down my Sky box. I've unplugged it. I've plugged it back in and so on. And I cannot get Disney Plus to play HDR at all, or 4K. It's 5.1 HD, and I've tried everything, and I've gone through everything that Sky say and what Sky says it should be doing that. So if you've got a Sky Q box, are you getting it on Disney Plus? If not, let me know. If you are, let me know what firmware you're on and so on. I've got the latest box. It's the brand new 1 terabyte box, so it should work. I've tried everything I can think of. So if I'm missing something or anybody knows what that might be, then let me know so I can try and get some HDR on the Disney Plus app on there. Right. Anything else?
I was asked by Craig Stevenson, what do I think of vinyl subscription services? There's loads of them now. Like anything of this nature, you've got to have a look, see what they're offering, see if you feel that that's commensurate with the price they're asking, because a lot of them are based in the United States. The headline pricing is then rather beefed up by the cost of postage to the UK. Some of them do some excellent work, and there's some genuinely interesting content out there. Others, it looks a bit generic, and the other thing you've just got to do is work out if you feel that the money that you're going to do in subscribing to it that's the best way to spend it over and above allocating that much money each month. And you might often find, especially if it's a US based service, that's 2 UK releases that you actually want, rather than being the proud owner of something mysterious. I mean, it's not a particularly open secret. It's not a secret, so to speak. If you Google my name, I did a lot of work for vinyl.
Unless you're Steve, don't get Steve searching for your name, Ed.
No.
Why? What happened there?
You'll die.
No, yes, no, but surely that's only IMDb. I'm not.
I haven't looked at anyone's, searched any actors on
well,
IMDb this week, and look, no one's died.
If Steve can hold off on it, then that's fine. But the rest of you are fine. I did a lot of work with Vinyl Me Please, an American service when they got up and running. I did a lot of their hardware articles. I still receive a record every month from them, which is baffling, but I'm not going to say no. And they've sent me some albums where I'd have never bought it myself in a month of Sundays, and they're absolutely fantastic. Equally, they've sent me some other things where I played it once and gone, yeah, and then stuck them in one side. So up to you. Consider each one on its own merits and do it. But there's nothing intrinsically wrong with them. Just see if they meet your requirements. Okay,
good stuff. Kaz, you seen any questions you need to answer?
No, but I thought I'd say thank you to Daniel for thanking me for putting him off Little Birds, which is the latest thing on Sky, and I forced myself through all 6 episodes. Billed as an erotic drama.
Can I just say, I am still bitterly really disappointed at your choice of Stand First. I'm not dropping this. I'm sure we could. I'm sure you could have gone for my suggestion. I'm sure you could have.
Yeah, it's not my style. Tom might have gone for it, maybe. Yeah, I told him he should have reviewed it. He said he's never going to review anything bad again.
Good luck there.
Yeah, I said maybe we're going to see him in 2021 then. But yeah, I think I'm glad that my review has put some people off what was an incredible waste of time. And I'm very surprised because it looked all right from the trailer and it looked like it could have been something, but it was a whole lot of nothing. So that's Little Birds on Sky. Do not watch it.
Oh, another question that I have. Ed, I like Justin Evans. I like Dolby Atmos 5.1 and 2-channel music. Is there an audiophile streamer that's all necessary formats? No. The specialist streaming fraternity is at the moment the nature of how these Atmos tracks are making their way out. The APK, the developer's kit, is not something that you approach, bored after lunch. It's a serious piece of work. put simply, they're going to wait to see if it has any traction before the big players get involved in this. So for the moment, you cannot go too far wrong with an Apple TV and just going out to your AV receiver. That's going to be optimal. And as I understand it, both Phil and Steve are enjoying that method very much.
Steve?
I think.
Yeah, sorry, there's a few things. Nice to see Ken's back, son of SJ. Just mentioned that on the first of my 4 visits to calibrate his TVs, he thought the picture looked dull. It took me about a week to get used to it, but then the previous settings looked garish. So there you go. Proof's in the pudding. Also, okay, well, Phil Singh, a question. What hardware reviews are you gents looking forward to the most for the last few months of the year?
I've got plenty to be getting on with and finishing. So.
I was got to say, I don't think there's a lot coming out at the moment. I'm particularly that we haven't already seen. I mean, it's obviously for obvious reasons, it's not going to be a classic year, is it? But personally, there's nothing in the pipeline that I'm thinking I really, really want to see that. I'll be honest. I'm like right now. I feel like Thanos at the end of Infinity War. I'm sitting down. I'm just got my home cinema set up just how I want it. I'm gonna watch some films, and I'm just gonna sit back and look at the works in front of me
until what's the chops comes along.
Thor chops your arm off. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like we say, there is the IFA, whatever IFA is going to be this year coming up. There's normally a couple of TVs that get launched. Whether there's TVs get launched or not, I don't know. I'm expecting the A9 series from Sony at some point. And we thought that was going to be IFA because you got the 48-inch version of the A9, but there's 9 larger than that. So it'll be interesting to see if that does happen from Sony, if they do release that. Like you say, there is projectors coming from Sony, or we think there's projectors coming from Sony. So that could be interesting. Sony always make good projectors, especially the 4K natives. Be interesting to see them do a home cinema projector under $5,000. That would be nice if they could manage to get 4K under that. That would be good if they can do that. We don't know anything. We're just surmising and guessing here. For me, it hasn't been a classic year. It's been much of a muchness. Small upgrades on what we've seen over last year. The HZ-2000, my review is going to come up, but my God, that is, if you're a movie fan, if you're not that interested in gaming that much, maybe you're a casual gamer, then it's got enough to cover the gaming side of things. But as a movie watching display, it is amazing, but then it's expensive. So, are you getting your money's worth over a C10? I think you are.
Worth is such a strong word.
Yes, and now I've got to qualify that by saying, at the end of the day, I am a movie fan. I sit down and I watch movies, whether that's on a projector or on the TV, and I want the best possible quality. Where the Panasonic really does score is when just above black, shadow details, so on. Whereas LG, for some odd reason this year, the black levels haven't been right. The just above black is there's a lot of flashing in there, raised blacks, and so on. There's something wrong there that needs to be fixed, and I'm sure LG will fix it because they've been really, really good in the past. That when things have been highlighted, they have gone in and fixed it through firmware and so on if it can be fixed. So, yeah, it's if you're a movie fan, the HZ-2000 is a stonking TV. If you can't afford it, though, the 1500 is amazing as well because it has the same, just above black detail and so on. It just doesn't do peak brightness. Peak brightness on the HZ-2000 was 850 odd. That's in Filmmaker in HDR, so that's the most accurate D65 mode. It's 850 nits, which is good going, but you're going to get fluctuations and so on. We've said that a number of times now in these podcasts, but yeah. So for me, much of a muchness. I am really interested to get stuck in about the room EQ systems. I've now got a Dirac device here. Still waiting on the Arcam. Haven't seen the Arcam yet, so still waiting on that.
Whereas I have had the Arcam device delivered. That will be reviewed next month. So
right, okay. So
I'm quite interested in that. And also in terms of
as well.
things I'm looking forward to, I've got a pair of Bowers & Wilkins 702 signatures. They're not out of their boxes yet. They're looming in the hallway. But yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that. Decent pair of decent pair of Boas floor standers. Been a while since I've done that, so that's all good. And actually, one of my two of my unexpected highlights went through in quick succession. But if you'd asked me at the start of the year, I wouldn't have pegged them. Those T+A headphones. I mean, they bloody well ought to be good at £5,000, but they are extraordinary. And the Krell K300i integrated, which went live on the site over the weekend. Again, it's a lot of money, but it's an enormously capable product. Gets an awful lot done in a relatively sensible form factor. I mean, for God's sake, don't try and pick it up. But in terms of the space it takes, it's not bad at all. So yeah.
So Stevie DR, how am I getting on with the NAD? To be honest with you, I don't want to say at the minute or give any opinions because it's only just been set up and is running in at the minute. So give me a week with that one, or actually give me 2 weeks for that one when we come back on the podcast. 3 weeks then. When we come back on the podcast, I'll let you know because I'll have done everything that I need to do with that and the Lingdorf by then. Go on, Steve.
I was going to say, in terms of what we might hear at IFA and what I'm possibly looking forward to, I don't know anything, so just speculation. Someone's already mentioned it. Well, a couple of people mentioned it. I think Phil mentioned Samsung TV Surprise and ASL micro LED. I would be surprised if Samsung didn't have something to do with micro LED, an announcement related to it in line with IFA, but I'm also would be very surprised if we actually saw anything this year, given the current circumstances.
Yeah, given the current circumstances. I think if COVID hadn't happened, there was a chance that could have happened.
Oh, they were definitely going to have an actual 75-inch micro LED, out in the marketplace. I mean, that was definitely the plan. Whether that's going to happen now, given the circumstances, but you might still see it. You never know. I mean, that would be great. I mean, and if they were sending out a review sample, I'd be excited to see that.
Grumpy Capybara. 3D will make a resurgence, but it's still 35
in about 30 years.
So yeah, in terms of current tech, crop done.
Yeah, and sorry. I think the next avatars are they 3D, but is he still talking high frame rate, Steve?
They're never going to come out. Come on, let's be honest. He's supposed to be doing variable frame rates. That's what I heard. Changing it depending on the sequence.
No, that could be interesting because Douglas Trumbull, he tried that a few years ago, or made the suggestion that for fast moving sequences, you could up the frame rate and then go back to 24 frames for your storytelling and that kind of thing, and swapping between the two. So that could be interesting.
But the action scenes in Gemini Man didn't look particularly good. Yeah,
no, because there was no motion blur. Cars, this is the problem. As soon as you go high frame rate, you lose blur, and your brain can't accept that because everything that we see has some kind of blur attached to it because you're not actually looking at something directly. Your brain's making a lot of this up. So a lot of things that you actually see right now. Your eyes making so many movements and looking at so many different things, and your brain's interpolating that and so on. When you see a high frame rate, that's the problem with high frame rate. There's no blur that the brain's expecting to see, which is why for a lot of people it's an uncanny valley. It doesn't work. So,
are you saying that if I drank enough before I went to see Gemini Man, it would have worked?
No,
I could induce my own blur.
No, because like Steve said, because they were shooting high frame rate and the cameras they were using and so on, they had to flood it with light, and it just looks awful. It does not look good. It's not.
If you put the Blu-ray on of that film, which is 24p, it still looks terrible. Because the cinematography is just awful. It's just like Phil said, nice it looks like a soap. It looks like a TV, not soap opera. It's not quite the right word. It looks like a TV production where they shoot multiple cameras. In order to do that, you have to you can't do artistic lighting because you're shooting from two different angles. Normally, you would. In a movie, they'll do a single camera setup. So they will have one camera. They will light for that shot. They'll film it, and then they'll relight for the next shot. In a TV. Like a lot of TV productions where they're shooting quickly, they'll light it so they can shoot from different angles simultaneously. And because of the high frame rate, they had to flood the set with light and shooting outdoors as well. And so Gemini Man looks like it's being shot on multiple cameras, and there's no artistry at all to the cinematography.
Yeah.
So we don't want this for Avatar, surely. Even what's the benefit of variable if it just makes the action scenes look terrible?
Well, we don't know, do we?
But I've never seen the first Avatar, so it's irrelevant anyway. So
I just let it go, Ed. Don't worry about it. Just because those films are never going to turn up. I don't think. We've got more chance of seeing the New Mutants than we have of seeing Avatar 2.
Can I just say, in terms of exciting things that appeared unexpectedly, if you are, like me, a fan of the original Cowboy Bebop TV series, the soundtrack is available in unmolested form on all the major streaming services, quite unexpectedly, by a Japanese jazz group, the Seatbelts. It's on all of them, as far as I can work out. And not only that, the rest of their portfolio of some of the other work that they did in and around it is there. And it's really good. So, if you're after something a little bit different and you don't want to watch Avatar again, get stuck into that.
Right, I think we need to wrap up on the podcast. We'll keep an eye on the questions. So if you have got questions, get them in quickly before we finish. We might come back to that. But before we wrap up, rather than doing a film star or whatever, because we're going on holiday, I thought, well, what kind of films that we enjoy are related to either taking a break or having a holiday or going on an exotic trip somewhere and so on. So what do we think? What films immediately pop to
Easy.
to mind?
National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah, I knew somebody was going to say that straight away.
Castaway.
Actually, I would think like most of the Bond movies are pretty good for foreign locations.
I
and
tend to find
exotic
people don't
locations.
kill me as much or try and kill me as much when I go on holiday. I mean, maybe you're doing it differently, Kaz. I don't know. I
No,
mean,
but it gives you.
but-
I mean, there's so much jet setting in these. I mean, it's just they're better than a lot of. I mean, you don't watch a movie to give you an impression of how your own holiday is going to be, because that would be an extremely boring movie, comparatively speaking. So,
Obviously, there's
for
Summer Holiday with Cliff
locations.
Richard.
Yeah. Apocalypse Now. That's a good sort of river
That's
holiday,
good.
isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes you feel like you've spent a good 2 weeks on the boat by the time they finally get there.
Watch
Do
a long
not leave the
Redux
boat.
cut. Yeah.
Do not leave the boat.
Never ever. It's my philosophy in life. Never get out of the boat.
Yeah, there we go. The boat.
I'm trying to think what else.
Well, obviously, we quoted from Dirty Dancing, which technically it was set in a holiday camp during the holiday. So
Lady Hiker Buzz.
yeah, I'm struggling. I really am struggling to think of.
Yeah, you set the
you
question. You
suggested
given
the
us a new
question,
place.
God's
but-
sake.
I actually missed that bit in the running order, so I'm
Yeah,
totally
well,
unprepared.
I'm afraid I'm coming into this cold and drunk. So
Really
Well, I mean,
can't.
hopefully our listeners then can help us out, because Martin Hamilton said Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's.
cabin fever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you a good one. Jaws. It's
Yeah,
set during
very
the July
holiday.
holidays, and yeah. And Daniel's just said that in the chat as well. So there you go. Well done, Daniel. Great minds and all that. Cabin fever. Yeah. Finished with well, it's only a day off. It's not really a holiday, is it?
Cabin in the Woods. I mean, obviously another great holiday. I mean,
Independence Day.
yeah, Independence Day happens on a national holiday. Part of the problem is, I have to be honest, in terms of, I mean, not that I'm going anywhere particularly special, but the idea of going away for 2 weeks, one, unfortunately, my various anxieties, I can't switch off for that long. It just doesn't work. I just think of all the stuff that's accruing in my absence, and it becomes a sort of a formative level of torture. I much prefer sort of weekends and city breaks and stuff like that. I can switch off for 48 hours at a time and so on and so forth. That's all works quite nicely. And the other thing is, I like the idea of visiting some of these tropical paradises, but I can't shake the idea that I'd probably be head of the escape committee by day 3. I'm not very good at, ironically, I excel at sitting and doing nothing in my own house. But if I've gone somewhere else, there's 2 things I want to do. I want to eat something which I consider to be proper down the line, what people actually there are eating, and I want to visit a dive bar. No, I do. It's something I've done wherever I humanly can, and if I'm on press trips, I try and do it as well. To the disappointment of the people shepherding me around. So
Paul says Jurassic Park. That's a theme park, but yeah, you go there on your holiday, wouldn't you? So yeah, that's a good
The
one.
Hangover. Well, no, I've done 2 press releases, 2 press launches. One I was technically organising, which wound up a bit like that. But no, none of my holidays have gone that far wrong. But it's early days. I mean, who knows? It could be something I try next. So, I mean, obviously, Lost in Translation is sort of like a holiday thing, in so much as it's the authentic holiday experience of when you haven't the faintest clue what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or if you're there on your own,
I've lived Lost in Translation. That film's bang on the money.
Yeah, I was just waiting on that coming in. You didn't have Scarlett Johansson though, so
unfortunately, no, I did not have Scarlett Johansson in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, not understanding what the hell's going on most of the time I completely could relate to that.
Fear and Loathing.
But that's my life generally. I think I don't understand what's going on most of the time. Anyway.
ESL said Die Hard, Christmas holiday. Yeah, Die Hard, absolutely.
Yeah, there is The Holiday. That's a terrible film, but yeah, and also yeah, I love someone suggested Midsummer. don't go to festivals in Scandinavia.
Yeah, be careful there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we really didn't rehearse that bit or research it or anything.
Never
so
tell. Honestly,
no plan was made there. No.
Yeah. Well, if people don't read the running order and come up with a list, then we're knackered right from the beginning. Titanic is a holiday. Yeah.
Well, technically, I suppose some of the first class passengers were not making a permanent change. So yes, but Titanic's not going to be on 4K because it's a James Cameron film. It will release it on 4K sometime before the
Titanic
Death of the Universe.
Is a Fox production, but they sold the US distribution to Paramount. So in the US, that's a Paramount movie. It's a Fox movie everywhere else in the world. So in the US, you could get a disc release, but you have to, not in the UK.
Well, I
trivia fans.
I'll remember that for a pub. No, I won't.
Right. Okay. I've had to look through, and there's nothing else that we need to answer anyway on the chat.
I think 007 needs to calm down on the questions or start paying some money because you asked about 20, mate. And we've asked 3 or 4, but
yeah, or head over to the forums and start some threads, and people can answer your questions over there. That's what AV Forums is all about. So yes, thank you very much. We are, like I say, going to take a 2-week holiday. We're back on the 30th of August for the next podcast. We know you'll miss us. But we are coming straight back, we promise. Don't forget as well, do like the video if you're watching at the moment. It really does help the channel. It helps us get found in searches and so on. So if you're still around and watching at the moment, please hit that like button.
Love of God.
The Volgan of the... Okay.
Hit that bell.
I should have mentioned it earlier. But yes, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button for this one, that'd be grand because it does help us pop up, like I say, in the searches and so on. So, like I say, we're none of us are going anywhere, are we? Really?
I'm going to the pub. Oh, hang on a second. The voice of authority.
I heard the voice of authority, and I'm ignoring them because I'm coming to that in a second. So, what was you saying, Ed?
I'm going to the pub to support them, but that's my holiday.
I'm going to the Jurassic Coast.
I thought you were going to say Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Well, we had this conversation about whether or not you'd go to Jurassic Park like a couple of podcasts ago. I'm still going to the Jurassic Coast. Just hasn't happened. But
yeah. I'm not going anywhere. I might get out in the car a couple of times, so that's what I'm aiming for. But I've got loads of work to get through, so I'm still stuck here working. Steve, you haven't said where you're going.
I'm not going anywhere.
God,
yeah,
probably.
I'm going to sit in my fortress of solitude and watch the film.
It's going to be cold.
Right. Okay. So while people wait for us coming back, there is a competition for you to enter that is exclusive to the podcast, and Kaz, in his best salesman voice, is going to tell you all about it.
Okay. You can win a Flash Gordon Blu-ray bundle.
That's the same as your normal voice.
It is. It is. I'm not a salesperson. Never wanted to be. Flash Gordon Blu-ray bundle with a T-shirt and a bag, which says Flash.
Mine arrives tomorrow on the way.
Does it come with a life-size cutout of Ornella Muti? Because I would enter it then.
It does. Well, it might. So why don't you enter it just in case?
Okay. All right.
To enter the competition, use the following question to select the correct answer. Whose costume design looked like it inspired the famous Princess Leia outfit from Return of the Jedi? And for a clue, well, actually, the complete answer is in the 4K disc review. And if you actually want to know the answer, we already talked about it about 5 seconds ago when Ed opened his mouth. So that's
Basically,
it.
she looks like she was designed by an enthusiastic committee of 12-year-old boys.
Yeah,
Well,
when I was 13 and saw this film, she made funny tingly things happen to me that I was.
Get the fizz.
But it is interesting that it was pre-Return of the Jedi, wasn't it? Because I
Yeah,
think it's very,
that actually
very
occurred to
Princess
me. You
Leia.
just pointed it out, but it is very
Yeah.
obvious now.
Yeah. Considering the
So
film
with all
Flash
due
was
respect,
actually
let
inspired
Carrie
by Star
Fisher-
Wars.
With all due respect to Carrie Fisher, less tingly feelings with her. Although by then I was 16 anyway, so I'd moved on.
And she was lying
Well-
on a slug.
Ornella, yeah. Ornella Beauty though. Whoa.
Oh, is this Alan Titchmarsh reviews? Because I am in for that.
Right. I'm completely lost now where we are. Anyway, donations. Justin Evans has just pledged £3 new patron. Justin, thank you very much. Welcome to Patreon, and you should be getting stuff nice and early to watch and stuff through that. So yeah, your £3 is well spent. Thank you very much for that. That's it for the podcast this week. And like I say, we're off on our holidays. But my thanks to Steve Withers,
Look, spaghetti arms.
Ed Selley,
Flat out, baby.
and Cass Harlow.
Women are stuffing diamonds in my pocket.
If you enjoyed the podcast, then please give us a like and subscribe with the notification bell on the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming review videos or our live streams when we come back. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can bookmark avforums.com for latest reviews, news, and video. Plus, why not leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, but only if you enjoyed the show. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for joining us, and you'll see us again on the 30th of August.